Hello, can anybody hear me?
Now I can.
Oh, good.
I can. The thing is, can you hear me? This is an experiment on my end as well.
Yes, I can hear you, Tim.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you.
And I can hear you, Todd.
Cool.
Tommy, not so much, but your mic's off, and you may not have a mic. So I'm not sure. I guess there's probably, oh yeah, there is a chat here on the side. Hello. Yeah, I see it. All right, cool. Hey, thanks for coming, guys, and thanks for indulging this little experiment. Honestly, I've been kind of like enjoying hanging out in this platform more than like Facebook.
That's rather easy to do.
There's a lot less ads and like weird stuff going by. So yeah, it's cool. And it's nice to have a place. Like I was just talking to some people this morning and actually inviting some more people from like the local gaming group to come join this because I'm trying to just like build it incrementally. And yeah, it was not well received. So it's nice to have a place where you can like chill out with other people who aren't freaking out about AI.
Oh right, and was that the main block?
Well, I don't know. I think it might have just been like the more boisterous people. I just posted an invite saying, come and join a group where we find out how AI can supplement our gaming experience. And the very first response was, "Oh, be careful with that," and like a warning, a video to like the evils of AI, and then followed by like somebody's tirade about how they felt about AI and you're not worth your GM. I can post the picture so you guys could see. It's really like inflammatory, but yeah.
Yeah, the mob is loud and shrill.
Yeah.
I found that there's. Go on, sorry, Tim.
I was just saying there is a lot of misunderstanding, misapprehension as to just what it is and what it can do. That's what I've found, at least. So.
I can understand like ethics concerns behind it. Like I don't really know like, or I find well, okay, I don't really know like where the training data comes from for OpenAI or any given like AI system, but that's for like the lawyers and those people to deal with. I don't really feel like ethically like righteous one way or another with AI. Like I don't feel like whatever the okay, people go, oh, it takes up so much water. Well, I have it installed on my own machine, so I'm not taking up any water. I know that's not how most people use it, but it's possible to do it in ethical ways or ways that are less unethical.
Well, it doesn't disintegrate the water either. It goes down the drain or up in the air as evaporation. Goes right back into the water cycle.
Right, right. Yeah, I guess just like how like a nuclear reactor's water cycle is. Hi, Rob.
Except most of the time with less radiation, I think.
Yeah, with less radiation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, this is just a disclaimer. Frank knows about this. I've only just come out of hospital. I've had a rather sensitive operation, let's put it that way. So I'm not quite with it. So if I have to drop off early, don't take it personally. It's just blame my surgeon and consultant. So
I hope you get well soon, and I hope you feel better. And I'm glad we could provide a diversion.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. When I was 20, I was in a bad car wreck. I broke my neck, and it was a bad mess.
Wow,
horrible.
Yeah, and I was in the hospital for 2 months. I was in intensive care for a month, and in the hospital for an additional month. And man, it was nice to have visitors and something else to do besides to sit there and veg out on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and that's the trouble. I've got to do virtually nothing for 6 weeks. So yeah, so this is really appreciated. I mean, going back to what you were saying earlier, though, I mean, one of the things that I think is perhaps misunderstood, and this may be going into too deep and not what you're thinking about, so I apologize in advance, but the training data is, it's all over. I think a lot of it really was all over the web, and some of it had some very woolly ownership concerns. and they're starting to trying to put in constraints on that. But one of the issues I worry about is, how do artists actually learn? How do musicians actually learn? How do writers learn? One of the big things about writing is you read as many books as you can. One of the big things about art is you study all the old masters. You learn from what they did. And yes, you develop your own things from that. So if you start stopping people from learning from all of these old people, what are you actually implying or suggesting or going to impact on in terms of the other arts, which is, one of the questions I think needs to be looked at.
Yeah, that's something we should definitely discuss. I figure we wait a few minutes before we get into the actual starting of the thing. Just let stragglers show up. But yeah, that's a good point, and let's put a pin in that, because that's something I definitely think should be discussed. And there's a lot of I don't want to get too into it, but just generally speaking, I think artists and writers should be able to opt out of training data if they want to. But I think that their contribution is such an infinitesimal part of the corpus that it won't be missed. So I think people put a little too much weight on the training data. And also, there's a lot of analogs on how do humans learn? It could be argued that photography is a talentless art thief situation, because you're just setting up, the image already exists, you're just setting up a contraption, twiddling the parameter, the controls, and then the box is doing all the work. So are you an art thief? I don't know. I don't think so. Photography is recognized as an art, so that I feel like the same thing kind of applies to AI. You could just generically say, draw a picture of a kitty cat. But if you say, draw a picture of a kitty cat with, dramatic lighting and depth of field and yada yada, and you use the vocabulary of art, you're going to get a unique art piece out. I mean, each piece is already unique, unless you call out for specific people's styles. But our experiment that we did with Tintin, there's ways to get those images without calling out Tintin.
Yeah.
One way I like, or one thing that I like, is the United States copyright policy, which is only humans can hold a copyright. So if you can use AI, but the human has to be a primary contributor, layout, filtering, post-processing. You can't just throw a prompt and call it copyrightable. And I think that's a good balance. Yeah. Now, in the UK, AI renders have a 10-year copyright right out of the box. So if you want to use 100% AI art, published through the UK, you're covered.
For 10 years at least.
For 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
The thing is, there is an art there in terms of, which is what we've been starting to look at here, and that is the prompts, designing the prompts, knowing what to ask about the prompts, which I've noticed you already started putting up, Frank. And it's, those are part and parcel of the art and the skill in actually using the AI to get a picture. It's not a skillless, it's not skillless, oh, draw me a picture of Roman legionary, bang, there you go, and you get a perfect one. You have to state an awful lot of what you want to do. Sorry, I'm using that as an example because I ran a role-playing game with my grandson and daughter and wife and whatever, just to introduce my grandson to him, and it was a pig to actually get a good set of pictures of these legionaries I wanted for them, and that was just
that's a good example. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, I like it because just for that kind of application, like you want a picture of Roman legionaries, you could go to the internet and maybe find one, but there'll be like reenactment people and yada yada. It's not going to be the thing that you want, so why not just make your own if you have the capability through AI? I mean, there's no harm in making images of yourself, and you don't really need other people's permission to do your hobby, so I kind of feel like as long as you're not hurting anybody, do your thing. And AI has a lot to contribute for like GMing, making random tables, encounter tables, coming up with NPCs, monster stats, every kind of thing. We're gonna explore all of that in this group. So if you guys have any frustrations or ideas or aha moments or whatever, feel free to just put them wherever you think they should be filed, and I'll move them if they need to be. But or we'll open up another category. But I think like the construction zone is probably a good place to put comments and suggestions right now, if anybody has any. So we're 10 minutes in, and that might be a good time to do a brief intro. I'll start. Hi, my name's Frank. I'm a multimedia artist and programmer. I've been the GM for my whole career. Like I started playing D&D when I was in 8th grade, and then I branched out. I like sci-fi more, so as soon as like Gamma World came out and stuff like that, I branched off into that stuff. And eventually, I've always worked in TV and video and radio and stuff. So I put all that stuff together and made it into a career. And I've always loved tinkering. And so when I heard about AI, and like people were freaking out about it, I wanted to see actually I had a friend who was posting some AI art, and I was like, that's crap. Not that it was not like that it was bad AI slop. It's just that it was like weird combinations of images, and it looked like a weird peacock superimposed on a Rorschach blot. I mean, it was just weird. Or like magic eye image or something, and so I was like, ugh. But then, a few years ago, I went to I went to a game development boot camp, and one of the things they were trying to push at the boot, well, not push, but connect with the community was like the whole Web3 and crypto, NFTs and whatnot. And like you could be, one of the things was you could, for instance, in one game you might buy a horse or a laser gun or some armor or whatever to go to somebody else's game, and as long as you both are linked into the same thing, you could have your gun or horse or whatever in that game too. So there were some cool practical applications that were not like NFT speculations. It was like NFT applications. Like you can assign fields to it and make it like a magic card with defense and attack and different kinds of armors or whatever production value. You can make a whole game out of collecting these things. Anyway, I had and I was like, well, one of the things is we had to put together some sort of NFT project as our final project. So I made it. I made a gallery of like lost temples in the jungle, and so I used the AI to do that, and then I made like a virtual art gallery, and I hung all these on the walls, and they all came out of my wallet, and it was really cool and easy. And I started, talking to the AI about like storytelling and stuff. We have some like inside joke characters that me and my friends have, and so we kind of outlined it to the AI and said, tell us a story about this person's origin. And the story it came up with was so hilarious, we were all dying laughing. And so I was like, this thing has potential. And so that's how I got involved in this, like just that led to the virtual GM experimentation, which is still under development. I just have to I'm pulled a lot of different directions. So anyway, so yeah, if anybody has any questions or anything about any of that stuff or my background or my projects, feel free to ask. There's nothing I don't talk about usually. And so that's me. And you guys don't have to make your intro as in-depth as mine was, but just name and maybe a little bit of background about gaming and what you hope AI can help you with. Who wants to go next? Todd, you're next on my window, on my screen.
That works. We'll go in table order.
All right.
Ex-Air Force, mad scientist wannabe, 3D modeler, 3D printer, game designer, both video game and paper. Been gaming since the late 70s. Started out poor, so I actually wrote my own dungeon crawler before I got D&D.
Brilliant.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm 40 years later, I'm still a big proponent of Homebrew. And AI really enables that. Whether you're doing research and need a list of English surnames, or whether you need location images or avatars. So I consider AI to be a big enabling tool. I don't have any commercial products that use AI. I'm kind of more, I like to keep it at the research and concept art phase. That may change in the future. I try to be a cheerleader for AI, and when I see rabid people on the internet, I'm sometimes liable to get into a multi-page rant on the forums. And right now, I'm just here looking for new tools and ways of using AI, because for the past 10 years or so, I've been mainly a solo gamer. So if I want adventures, if I want prep, I have to do that, or leverage AI to do that. And that's where I'm coming at this from. Next.
Welcome.
Right.
All right. Tommy is going to have to respond in the chat. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Tommy. His mic is broken. Oh, look, he already prepared a dissertation. Boom, that was fast. Lightning fingers. Yeah, a good point about Photoshop. Yeah.
Mazes and Monsters. All right, yeah.
Cool.
Oh, wow. Haven't heard that name in a long time.
Cool. When I was younger, I used to work for a government contractor that was developing a hyperspectral imaging system. That reminds me of what Tommy's involved in. It's something you could fly over like crops, and it would scan the corn or whatever, the reflected light, and that tells you like a certain kind of fingerprint. The corn lacks potassium, the corn lacks whatever, and then you could go give it more of that. Yeah, it was meant for helping farmers, but you could also use it to detect unnatural structures in the jungle, like things that were camouflaged. So they had weird military applications. Cool. All right. What else? Well, that's it's good. Do you want to add anything else, Tommy? I mean, that's good enough. But I'm good. All right. Next, let's do Tim.
Okay, I started gaming back when D&D brown books first came out. I could go and get the brown books actually if you still want them. Was it the white books? I can't remember. Then went into RuneQuest and Traveller when they first came out. One of the worst things that's happened in my life is when I moved house, stored my Traveller backbook set, High Guard and Mercenary and everything else, in my brother's loft, and then he got a leak in his loft and destroyed the whole lot, which is heartbreaking.
It is. I lost my whole Hardy Boys collection to that, so I can relate.
Yeah, so I've done an awful lot. I suppose you could say my jobs and roles have been as game designer, writer, military wargamer, and IT specialist. I've done wargaming for some of the main big wargaming companies over here, including working with Rick alongside Rick Priestley and that sort of stuff, which is nice name dropping, but he's just a nice gentle guy. And talking to him about role playing and what he wanted to do. I've put out a few war games, put out a whole bunch of role playing supplements. Don't know how many articles I've put out of one kind or another on role playing. But the main thing for me is, obviously I can't use some of the stuff I might have used working for the defence industry over here, the Defence Science and Technology Laboratory. But what I do want to do is actually apply AI to actually make gaming easier. If you see what I mean, that's the main thing from my perspective, because it has been useful already. As I said, in a few instances, actually managing to get some really nice images out, which actually presents to people, this is the situation, this is what's going on. If I could actually use it to draw up a few really nice things like ship plans or some really nice dungeons, then yeah, maybe that might be interesting.
Right, cool. Right, well, we're gonna help do that. At least that's my goal. All right, welcome.
The other thing I'd like to have a look at is seeing if you could actually use AI to actually to move 2D pictures into 3D prints, but I don't know. That's probably beyond our scope here, I think.
Might be, if it's something that we can do. I have seen things like Meshi. You can create 3D objects, and then I output them to a slicer, I suppose, and put them on a 3D printer, or import them to Blender.
Yeah, I've used Blender to design a few things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you almost need to use Blender or some other tool due to the resolution issues with Meshi and the other category of 2D to 3D.
Mm-hmm. They don't always produce the best results, but sometimes they do. I saw like a demo that was made. I saw a demo made on Meta VR Worlds, where they have just a kind of a drag and drop AI VR designer. You say you want a little cottage, it pops one up, you drag it out into the environment, and there it is. And you can make more like that. Just copy and paste them and make a whole little village. It's nuts. And you can say like make a well here, and it gives you 3 different kinds of wells. No, I don't like any of those. 3 more, okay, and they're all 3D and pre-made. It's crazy. All right, let's yeah, we'll try to cover all that stuff. I'm going to try to support the group in however I know how to, and I'm sure there's going to be other expert people that step forward in their area, and we'll all put that stuff in the resources panel. So let's keep a lookout for that, and post what your pain points are, and we'll try to make some sort of course or get together something, discuss it, see what we can learn. All right, let's move on to Andrew, also known as Sector, who's my friend in real life. His voice sounds like Kermit the Frog, and people usually laugh when he speaks. So he does. No, I'm just kidding. He does prefer to chat, though.
You shouldn't have done that, because now I'm reading this in the voice of Kermit the Frog.
Oh, it's okay. He's kind of he trolls me in my like we troll each other. So yeah, haha, got you first. Yeah, we play in Traveller game every other week, and yeah, I think what kinds of things are you interested in using AI for in your games, Andrew? I know that you're not well. I don't. You're not running any games. You're a player in both, right? He plays the engineer, and I'm the fussy scientist. Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, and he has been helpful, but to me too, like looking stuff up. While I was GMing some new players, Sector was or Andrew was nice enough to send me some messages on the back end. Oh, don't forget to tie up this loose end. It's like, oh yeah, whoops, almost forgot. All right. Well, welcome, Andrew. And same thing, goes for you. If you have any particular applications or thoughts, this is all new territory, and we're gonna explore it. Yeah, right. All right. So, Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be here and be interested in AI? Oh, we're not getting any audio from you.
So it helps when you.
There we go.
Audio. Yes.
Welcome
works
back.
fine, but it helps to have the right audio device selected.
Right.
So I'm a chemical engineer by training, but spent most of my career doing control and optimization systems in oil refineries and stuff. So a fair computer emphasis. My first RPG experience was with Traveller, probably, I'm guessing it was the early 80s sometimes. So the game had been out a little while by then, but not a long time. And D&D was sort of a thing. I guess by then I had never played it. And I was more of a science fiction person. And so I didn't know anybody else. Like I've learned is very common with Traveller players. I didn't know anybody else who played Traveller. And so I bought the box with the little black books and read through it and invited a bunch of guys from work. So I'm dating myself now. I was out working by then out of college and found a bunch of guys at work who would get together. And if there was beer, they'd pretty much do whatever you wanted. And so they came over and we played Traveller. I want to say, just from the notes that I've got, we played maybe half a dozen times. And then we had kids. And fast forward to kind of the mid 2000s, I guess. And my kids are now grown up and happily married and moved away. And I had run into a bunch of guys who were playing. We started playing on Roll20. So that, when would that have been? In the 2000s, 20 something in there. Anyway, so we wanted to play face to face, so we started to play Star Wars, the role playing game. We played that for a while, and then started a campaign online to play Starfinder, which had just come out, and so I played that. And of course, I'm the one that says, "Hey, let's play this," and they say, "Okay, well, you be the GM." So probably 90% of my experience with RPGs is I'm the GM. And so I ran Starfinder for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years, both online, and then I found a local game store that would let us there that ran tables, and so I ran the whole first module from Starfinder, all 6 books. Ran it twice through with different groups of people, and started into another one. And then I had wanted to get back into Traveller for a long time, but I didn't know anybody who played Traveller. So my one thing another, the Starfinder campaign was winding down. They were pivoting to 2nd edition, which looked just like another big rules book buy. And so I thought, okay, if I'm going to buy a bunch of rules books, I'm going to buy Traveller rule books. And so I have been studying for, I want to say, a year or year and a half now, getting ready to run Traveller. what am I studying for? I don't know what I'm studying for, but so I started out, I read through all the Mongoose books. And so what I had to do was to unlearn a lot of Starfinder and go back to figuring out how this equivalent things were done in Traveller. And so I've started a campaign. I convinced a bunch of my nieces and nephews that their life would be incomplete unless they played Traveller. And so they all live 1,500 miles away from me. So I've got them getting together, and they don't know Traveller from The Expanse. You know, they're not RPG people. This is the first RPG they've ever played. They've heard of D&D, of course, but don't know anything about Traveller. And so I've been teaching the game to them. And our local game store had shut down and was starting back up now. And so I've got campaigns slots set up to start next week there, and have I told the guy when I set them up, I said, well, I don't know if anybody is there even going to sign up for these things. So if nobody signs up, then I'll think of something else to do. But so I put them out there. Well, I've got a full table to start in a week and a half.
Awesome.
Of people I don't know. And in the meantime, figuring that nobody was going to come to the game store, I signed up for 2 local cons. And so I've got 5 sessions that I'm GMing at 2 local
cons. Now you're overloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are all non-existent material at this point. So I have a title and a blurb for each of those sessions. So I now need to construct 3 complete standalone 4-hour segments for those cons between now and the first ones in February. So that's kind of where I am. I spend a lot of time now thinking about travel. I'm using Obsidian as my auxiliary brain. And about, I guess I want to say maybe a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago, I stumbled on the idea. Somebody had said, oh yeah, you can, I think it was probably something I saw on your blog, Frank, or somewhere else. You can use AI to do this. And I thought, go on, I know about AI. It's crap. You can't do this. So I started to do some stuff when I was still running Starfinder. Well, so it's got to be a couple of years back now that I was starting to do this, starting to use an LLM to, at first what I was doing was off-the-wall idea generation. So you'd get into something and you think, okay, now what can they do here? And so I would just type in, okay, here's what we're doing. This is what give me some ideas about what I could do. And I was just astounded by what came back. Now, it was not
like GM polished.
It was not GM polished. It was not publishable material, but it was a bunch of ideas in a given scenario that I hadn't even thought of. And so I've used it like that for a long time, just as an idea generator. And I grab an idea and go and figure out how it really had to be in order to run it at the table. And I've continued to do that. It is getting better and better all the time. And I'm a subscriber to John For's stuff, role-playing tips. To a website anyway that he's it's not Traveller related, but it's GM related. It's GM focused. And so I was telling them this story a little while ago, and he said, oh, I need to send you my prompt. So he sent me a prompt for NPC generation, and it was in his game. And so it was all his lore, but it was like, my prompts have been like this. He sent me a prompt like this. And I thought, really? Can you put all that stuff in there? It's going to choke on that. And so I took the whole big mess and I Travellerized it and put the lore of my campaign in and posted it in. It blew me away at the quality of the character that it gave me in a heartbeat.
Yep. The context was key there. The context was key there, in other words.
The context was key. That was the aha lights on moment for me, which anybody who's been working in AI for any length of time looks at me and says, "Well, duh, did you not know that?" Nope, I was today years old and I figured that
out. Well, like Tim said earlier, prompt smithing is a skill. It is definitely a skill. You can't just like say, draw me a kitty cat and get what you see in your head. You have to, iterate through it a few times, change some things. Oh, it doesn't like kitty for, it also matters like what words come first in the prompt. There's all, and it depends on what platform you're using, what words you should use and things like that. So there is, there's a skill to that. It's learned through experience. And the other thing is, we're all kind of pioneering this area. We don't have a lot of like previous people who went ahead of us to show us the way on this. So, we're everybody give yourself a pat on the back for being a high technologist.
Well, the thing that has blown me away recently is that volume matters. So short prompts, I guess, can be effective, but if you can't get good, get long, it's almost as good. So the more you can tell it, the better it seems to be. And I mentioned I'm using Obsidian, and so I'm starting to wire those two things together. So one of the things I found in Obsidian is they have this templater wizard that you can stuff full of JavaScript. And so I have this thing set up so that I want an NPC. Well, I've got a whole bunch of procedural background randomizing stuff that will generate based on the rules in, I think, either the core rulebook or the companion. There are quick NPC generators. So I took all of that stuff, and the first time I did it, I cutty-pasted it and made myself a JavaScript module to generate NPC. Then it dawned on me, gee, why am I doing that? And so I took the whole core rulebook and pasted it, just the whole PDF, pasted it into Gemini. And I said, write me JavaScript for my Obsidian note that uses the NPC generation procedure in this book. And so it went and got the whole procedure, all the tables and stuff, properly formatted them into JavaScript, cooked it all together into a widget, and I just cut it out. And I'm sort of iffy on JavaScript. I just cut it out, pasted it into Obsidian, and said go. Dang, it works really well. And then and I also told it, based on what you just generated, write an AI prompt that I can feed to Gemini to give me a portrait of this character. And so it generates
a prompt for itself.
Yeah. So the JavaScript generates a character and a go by sort of thing. That's what I want you to have at the end. I copy the go by out and paste that into the Gemini connector in Obsidian. And I tell it, okay, rewrite this based on what's in the rest of the node. And one of the things that's in there is a prompt. And so it rewrites the prompt. And then I take the prompt that Gemini wrote, and I haven't figured out how to do this quite yet, but I take that and I plug it into the Gemini, tell it to make an image and say, go. And about half the time, it pops out an image that when you look at it, it looks like the character that you generated. It really is. It goes and picks up characteristics of that character's background and writes them into the prompt. So you paste it in the prompt, and the prompt sort of looks like that NPC. So now they walk into a bar and they say, well, who's that guy over there? To I've got a 2-page background document and an image. I'm about 60 seconds.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
So Obsidian is like a node organizer.
It's like Notion or Evernote or those sorts of things. Yeah.
Right.
It's a markdown editor, basically.
Okay. One of the things I've found useful is World Anvil. You can
I looked at it and it was too hard for me.
Yeah, it's hard. It has a steep learning curve. Well, not really. If
Not
somebody
really.
showed you, but
Yeah.
how to do it, it's pretty intuitive. But basically, there's different views, and if you're on the right view, you can just click like secret society, and then it gives you some prompts. What about the secret society? Why are they secret? Do they have rituals? Who's the leader? And it gives you all these like prompts that before AI came out would help you write the stuff out. Um, and now that AI is out, you can use that to kind of fill in those fields and generate your world faster. And then also, I'll tell you about something interesting I did earlier today as an experiment. But before that, one of the things I found useful is I took my Traveller subsector and I put it into a spreadsheet. And then I exported that as a JSON file into GPT. So on the paid version of GPT, you have project files, and within the project files, each project can have its own set of instructions and its own like set of reference documents. And so I gave it some instructions in the reference documents, and uh, uh, lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, okay. So and then I was able to query GPT, tell me about my subsector. Uh, who has where are the largest population planets? What are like look at like these planets and their neighbors. What is likely some shenanigans that could be had, and stuff like that. So once and also statistic, analyze this, and it's like, oh, you only have like 4 industrial planets in this in the subsector, and what that probably means. And most of the planets are poor, unindustrialized, yada, yada, yada. And it was pretty thorough and amazing, and gave me a lot of ideas about how, what kind of adventures we could get up to that made sense. Because, it's like when you generate a sector, it's all random. And you go like, why does this planet that can't possibly like support people have 1 billion people on it, and there's no atmosphere? Like, what in the hell? Uh, so AI helps you like figure that out,
We're
And
going to be we're going to be
go on,
playing
Rob.
in for even in the campaigns that I've been in, and so it's got stars where like in that whole subsector, right? But nothing is named, and so somehow or other, I can't remember how I did this. I took the subsector we were going to be moving into first, and I populated that all with actual UPPs. I want to say it was a Traveller map that did it, or there's somebody else's tool that you can feed it something and it generates a subsector, or maybe I just generated a subsector and just renumbered everything, and then it will draw you a map of it. And so that's what I've been working with, but I hadn't thought of just taking that standard subsector text format and pasting it into AI and saying, okay, tell me all about this subsector and where are the alliances and how does the trade flow? And I hadn't even thought to do that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, you can ask anything
really
you want
useful
of it.
thing. Yeah.
It becomes like a kind of it becomes like an oracle on your subsector. You can say like, where's a good place for bad guys to hide out, or where's it, and you can also have like you could submit a character sheet for all of your players, and now the AI knows what type of characters are at play, and it can help you come up with, it's kind of like something I find really useful, which is coming up with like target audience avatars. Something people do in marketing. You define like a make-believe set of people, and those are your primary customers. You can, at first, you don't have any statistics. You're just going, I'm doing this for GMs who get confused easily and can't remember or whatever. And then if as you proceed and you like put out polls, you can ask people specific things like, what's your yearly income range, or what's your education level, what's your yada yada yada, and just get them to volunteer as much as they want, and then you can synthesize that into actual like avatars. And so what's the point of all of that? Well, every time you develop something for your game, you can say, does this have something for each of the avatars? Or is there something for everybody in this, or is it just made for this guy? And to me, it helps guide a lot of things. So if you could have something like that where the AI knows about the players, and then you can even put little notes as the GM, like what this person likes to explore, this person likes to pick fights, this person yada yada. With all of that in the project file, the AI would be able to help you come up with adventures. Okay, find me a place for the villain to hide, and something that a fortress or something that will challenge my players. And then it'll take some spitting out, but
it did read the UPP code. So and I've actually used it. I'm using Gemini mostly, and so I created a gem that has the rule books in it. And so one of the first things I did was I took a UPP. So I made my subsector, figured out a plausible reason why the players were going to this planet here. And it had been a randomly generated planet. And so I took that UPP and I pasted it into Gemini, and I said, tell me about this system. Why, explain it. Explique, por favor. Tell me why this system is what it is. How does it all work? Well, it turns out it's got a 12 law level and low tech, and it's balkanized. And so it took all of that and it crafted this absolutely bizarre picture of the weirdness of this particular world. And so that's where they're going to show up.
Right. And you can come up with like culture, like what are the rituals? What are their celebrations and holidays? What, who is the big megacorp here? Who runs the place? Yada, yada, yada. Any kind of thing you want. I mean, I really find AI useful for that kind of stuff. Before it came out, I used to use a program called Inspiration Pad. Anybody familiar with that?
I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it.
It's free. I'll put a link to it in the resources because it's really useful. But you can make basically interactive hyperlink tables. And then you can weight the entries, or you can just make them random tables. Like it's roll a d6, on one it's this, on two it's that. And then you can set up like these macros that make characters that, plug in the eyes and the hair and all the descriptions. Okay. And then it just goes to the different tables that you've set up. And like if you had one that was orcs, and it would like describe their tusks or like whatever racially or whatever descriptions. They have green skin and they have tusks or whatever. And you could have this thing. What it's meant for is randomization and helping you like come up with ideas for stuff. And but AI does that like it's so much better. It's not randomized, and even if it is random, even if you take like a randomized thing from Inspiration Pad and paste it over to the AI, it just develops it up to such a way better thing. But it's still a great thing for generating adventure seeds and nuggets. And somebody said, "Oh, I have a hard time coming up with names." AI could give you a list of names ahead of the time, and you can just cross them off as you use them. So there's all kinds of applications. I wanted to talk about some things I saw in the polls. So people were saying they had some specific pain points, such as prep time, NPC dialogue problems, some visual consistency with their images, lore overload, scheduling problems, and just not having great confidence with AI tools. So if AI could reliably solve one of those for you, which would matter most? Let's start with Todd.
Well, right now, my focus is on battle maps for a future game project. And I've been going through my AI tools and trying to generate maps. And it's like pulling teeth, because it wants to give me the wrong camera angles. It wants to overload on details. And like 90% of the rooms that it generates are all square. It's like, that's not interesting for a running gunfight. So I need to up my image generation, map making skills and prompts. So that's my primary focus for now.
All right, cool. And how about you, Tommy? Which of those pain points, or do you have even a separate one that we didn't cover? It's funny, AI can really be like an evil genie and like not give you what you want. Making maps doesn't work very well. Yeah, okay. I think I have some help with that.
Yeah,
All right.
it's one of my main one is I'm effectively, when it comes to this use of AI, best regarded as a newbie. Yeah, I've used it for a few games, tried a few things, tried to draw maps out, but it's the competence, as I think I said to you earlier, is I don't even know which is the best tool to run with at the moment. So.
Sure. Well, all the tools do different things better. Like Gemini produces images fast, but GPT produces better images according to my taste. Take a little bit longer, but they generally gets what I'm asking for. But but those could be used together too. You could use Gemini to quickly storyboard something or come up with concept art and then refine it over on another platform that you like better. Even like Photoshop, because like Photoshop, they've integrated third-party AI into there now. There's you can access Nano Banana from Photoshop and some others, but the Photoshop AI, what the heck's it called, Firebug or whatever, Firefly. That's made off of Adobe's like licensed photo library, which they've been developing since the 80s, and so that's all trained on licensed stuff. People can't really complain about that. So anyway, yeah, you can combine different things together. And one thing I think might be helpful, I'm going to experiment some more with it, but I've had some good results on the preliminary tests. Is generating using a program like from off like the dungeon website, where you can just generate random dungeons, and that takes care of like the cool shapes like you're talking about. And then with that as a framework, bring that into Nano Banana or Stable Diffusion or another program that sees that underlying structure and then texturizes it if you want, puts down um, flagstone floors and decorates it with furniture or whatever, or just gives you a blank one, and then you can have another like contact sheet with furniture that you can copy out and paste. So there's a couple of different ways to approach it. Usually, because of the AI has like a context that is like the biggest thing it can like pay attention to at once, and with the context has to be big enough to take in the question and have space for the response. So if you fill it up with question, you'll only get a short response. So you kind of have to find an optimization in there, kind of a happy medium between how detailed you want to be and how good you want the results to be. So it's usually best with upfront loading. If you give it a good quality prompt, you'll get good quality output at the other end. But like you mentioned, it's hard to know what are the words that it's looking for. What do you say to it to get what you want? And so that's going to be one of the things that we're going to talk about in this group. Let's see. What about you, Andrew? Which of those pain points? I'll repeat them if you like. They're prep time, NPC dialogue fatigue, visual consistency, lore overload, scheduling problems, and AI. I want to say proficiency. Okay. No particular pain point other than a certain cyborg. trolls me on my Discord because we're friends in real life. So okay, what about you, Rob? What's the biggest sticking point for you?
I think the thing that the biggest challenge as a GM is the kind of use of AI at the table. If I have time, most stuff works reasonably well because you can bang on it. Now, I will agree with Todd and others that map making is just impossible, near as I can tell. I've had zero success in generating a map that I would actually use. And that almost feels like, well, there's something missing in the way I'm doing it, because I've looked at, you've looked at the widget online that randomly recombines the geomorphs, the ship geomorph.
No, I haven't seen that, but that sounds cool.
It's really very clever, because it took that whole Geomorphs version 2, or that whole book that's got, I don't know, several thousand geomorphs in it, and it built a thing that goes and gets a bridge and some engines, and it gets all the right parts and then sticks them together, and you hit the button and say, give me another one, and it gives you a different one. So somehow getting that wired up to an AI so that I can say, okay, well, I want one of these, but it's got a head, but I want one that's got the bridge in the center and this around there and this around there and that around there. I can do it manually by going, but I got to go find all of the bits and pieces and put them together. And so that would make a ship map. Now, that is a ship map, right? How often do you find that you're always, that the map you need is a ship deck plan? That's often, so here's my fundamental problem. Often the map I need, I don't know what it is before we start, right? Because I don't know, you're never really sure where these crazies are going to go. So they decided, oh, we're going to go down to the planet. And so, all right, all of a sudden I need kind of a city street with, we're going to go get the stuff out of the newspaper. All right. So being able to cook something like that up relatively quickly would be, so maps like that. So if I could generate maps with AI, then I could sit there and say, then it turns into prep. Okay, so then I can say, okay, I might need a map of a commercial establishment, tech level 8. All right, I need a map of a food store, tech level 12. And have it just sort of generate something that was plausible and generic enough that I can pull it out and throw it on the table and say, there, aren't I clever? I've prepared all this stuff. When really I've got, a book of these things that I've printed out. Because with Traveller, one of the things I've found with Traveller is you don't need the same kind of map as you need with a Pathfinder, Starfinder, D&D type of campaign that's sort of focused around personal combat. I've run 3 or 4 sessions in this new campaign. We have yet to have anybody shoot at anybody. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I don't need to not worry about maps so much. I'll just draw something by hand and be done with it. Maybe that's the answer.
Right.
So maps is an issue. At the table, cooking up things quickly at the table is probably the second thing, or I'll shut up. I'm rambling. Sorry. I do that.
It's just things that crop up, though, isn't it? You start running through this sort of stuff that you've actually had problems with at the table, and then it comes up, doesn't it? That's what I mean.
And what about you, Tim?
Well, to me, a game session where there aren't there hasn't been any hand-to-hand combat or any shooting. It sounds absolutely great, and that's what people really enjoy. And we were part of the Mongoose Traveller playtest group, and that happened constantly. But the first iteration of the combat thing, sorry, I'm waffling, was a bit off. But the fact that it was all discussion and it was all the age-old theatre of the mind actually helped in that playtest at that time. And I think at that point, the AI being too prescriptive might have been counterproductive, ironically. However, as I said, I need to know what the good AIs are. I need to know how to actually get the prompts a little bit better. Yeah, sure, I've used them. I've played around with stuff. But my normal sector mapping is a Python program I wrote. Last thing I designed it. The other sector mappings I quite like rolling maps, for example. Ship mapping again is used at CC3, which I'm sure people have used. Fractal terrains is quite good for planets and that sort of stuff. But all that's exactly as Rob said, is very often you don't necessarily need that. It's something rather more specific that comes up. So being able to use it on the table. Yeah. I've got one of those as well, oddly. So dynamic would be useful, or actually having, if you like, being able to actually pre-generate a whole set of, a sample TL12 bar or restaurant or dive in a back street somewhere, and just being able to roll that out when it comes up would be useful, I think. But my stuff is a bit mixed anyway. It's really mixed. The last one of the last games, or not the last games, but one of the last games was a brand new unused system which I was developing for Warlord, which never came out because of the COVID. But in that, for example, there was a top level of a buried thing where the players were supposed to pick up a whole bunch of clues as to why it wasn't a good place to explore and it's going to be a waste of time to explore, except they missed all the clues on the top levels. And then all of a sudden, the lift buttons are already described that there are about 5 lift buttons going down here. And I thought, I can't have all of these broken or ruined. So I desperately was trying to, in between each session, just try and get up the different sessions.
Get a step ahead of the players.
Yeah. And I did it, but if the AI could have done that, as Rob said, that would have been really useful.
All right, I think I think we covered everybody's pain points. Let's see. So what are some things that where AI helped you, and where did it disappoint or make things worse? Todd?
Well, recently I've been at a writer's block on one of my games, and I used one of your prompts that you had suggested, and it gave me a solution. I didn't use the solution, but it viewed it from a different perspective. So just by having that different perspective, I got past that roadblock. So as an idea generator, sometimes it's what it sparks rather than what you take literally from it. So that for me was a big win in the AI department, because I was blocked on this scene for months.
Right. Well, that's and that's where curation comes in. As the subject matter expert in your own game, what is good or bad when the AI spits it out, and what's useful or what can be what's a diamond in the rough, as they say. That's not the answer, but it's very close to the answer, and with a little twist, I can make it work. That's where you put the human. Not only just the curation of what's a good idea is, but then you add the human creativity on top of that. So, I really want to kind of keep AI in the helper position, not in the administrator position.
Right. To amplify on that, I am primarily a solo gamer, and you have a different focus. Like dialogue becomes a lot more intimate, and when you're talking earlier about inspiration pad and about random disconnected bits, well, that's a meta challenge. That is part of the puzzle, putting that together, getting the dopamine hit. So I don't want AI to tell me what has. I want it to give me the pieces and the options and then run with those so I can express my creativity.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's
yes,
a
I
good
talk with my hands.
point. Mamma mia. All right. Yeah. Good point. Okay. What about you, Tommy? What's do you have any times where AI genuinely helped you out, or times when it disappointed you and made things worse? A vague text prompt and then get an image. That's 70. Yep. That is pretty good. You know, if you can get, I always tell my art friends, if you can get the image to 80% of the way with the AI and then finish it off in Photoshop, you know, that's probably the best way to go, because like you're going to sit there forever trying to generate the perfect thing. When I made the images for I'm doing like a series of shorts explaining explaining Traveller skills, and I made like little AI slides that went with them. The ones that came out for the animals, one of them was perfect, but man, I generated so many of them and it took a long time, and that popped out and I was like, this is what I consider my masterpiece. And it's the one I posted in the gallery. Okay, Mr. Bitey, you stay with the ship. So go look that one up if you're interested. But I was like, wow, this is really good. This has everything in it. You can see the ship, the people in the background are like depth blurred, but you can still see that they're like crew members. It made diverse characters. It made the dog look genetically and like beefy, like not uplifted, but genetically modified. And yeah, I was like, this is like, and then also that's when I found out that you could submit additional images and it'll incorporate them in. So I gave it the Imperial Starburst, so like everybody's got the Imperial insignia on their uniform and stuff. It looked really cool. I was like, I couldn't, I don't care what people say about AI and how much they hate it. If not for AI, we wouldn't have these images that are in our heads that we want to see, that we want to share with other people. And I think generating them and inspiring people's imaginations. Yeah, they talk about like brain drain or whatever, relying too much on AI, but I think it can also inspire your brain. But that's my little rant. Yeah, the fingers. But you could take it into Photoshop, circle the hand, and generate a new one, and it works pretty well. Or eliminate the extra fingers. So there's that again gets to the human craftsmanship part that people complain about. Yeah, see. But if you can explain it there's a trick to getting consistent characters and good looking characters, and that is I'll explain it in one of the courses, but basically when you meet a person, there's certain aspects that you visually notice right away, and by stacking those to the front of the prompt, you will get like better consistent images. And you can name like if you're using something like Stable Diffusion, you can name that prompt as a macro, and so whenever you refer to Julie, it inserts the information about how to draw Julie, and you always get the same Julie as long as you're using the same um, generation seed, which a lot of people don't know about generation seeds either. If you want consistent images, you need to use the same image seed. Um, some of the new like Nano Banana doesn't need that because it's just using what's already there. But if you can, if you have the generation seed that went with the prompt that you like, you'll repeat that those aspects in future prompts. I think you can get the um, seed from Midjourney. I know you can definitely get it in Stable Diffusion. I'm not sure if you can get it from Nano Banana or GPT though. I'm not sure. I've never tried it, but I don't see a way of doing it that's obvious. Let's see. What about you, Andrew? Or who's next? Rob. I'm trying to. Some people are losing link and getting out of order and changing their initiative.
So one of the things that I found work astoundingly well out of this was I read a book a little while ago, Life 3.0, about it was an AGI book, one of the older books on AGI, and so I got interested in AGI, and so I thought, well, you know, my travel universe is our universe in 3,000 years, and so I had been thinking about AGI, and so I fired up the AI prompt in the Traveller gem, so it knows about the Traveller universe, and so I said, okay, take as a premise a couple of things. One is AGI exists in my Traveller universe. And so one of the questions that I want an answer to is, how did that happen? How did we avoid the existential threat? What were the mechanisms that did that? And my second question was, I want my Traveller universe to be dominated, or the uber hero and uber villain in the whole universe are AIs, are AGIs. And yet that has to be true in a way that's consistent with the rest of the lore in the Traveller universe. And so my question was, how did that happen? How does that work? And so it was a very vague sort of prompt, and it spun up several, well, it could be kinds of things on both sides. So I'm looking for really two factions, and the other thing I told it was the campaign is set in 1105-ish, right on the edge of the Fifth Frontier War, and these two AGIs are somehow involved in this political situation that's about to happen. How is that all working? Because what I was looking for was to build out a background. I was world building factions for the players to then encounter, and they're not going to encounter the AGI, because my premise is it's a super intelligent AGI, and so it is. Well, so I don't know why does the AGI care? How does it factor into the factions that the players are going to encounter? And I was very pleased with the way that it constructed the world around that premise. You know, it came up with several different ideas about, well, how did the soft landing work? How did super intelligent AI come into existence and not destroy everything? And how does that work? And then how are there two of these things? And are there only two? Or how does super intelligence work in the Traveller universe? And why does the Traveller universe continue to exist the way it obviously does, even in the premise of super intelligence? So the answers that it came up with, I thought were immediately workable into a campaign worldview. So if you ever play in any of my campaigns, you can't know any of this, right?
I'll play dumb.
Right, because this is all hidden from the players.
No metagaming.
Yeah.
It's that background that, if it's in my mind now, when I'm creating little bits and pieces for them to bump into, I have a consistent meta narrative that Gemini created mostly out of whole cloth, and it came up with ways of doing that I had not considered. I hadn't thought of all the, because you have, in order to to answer this AGI question, you have to read a lot of stuff from a lot, because there's a lot of different ideas about how this is all going to work. And
yeah,
so I don't know how it's all.
Yeah, it's like taking a shortcut on speculative, science fiction.
Yeah, and so what I leveraged Gemini to do was to cut through a lot of that stuff and generate what feels to me to be a sort of plausible scenario. I'm not a super intelligence expert, so I don't. It may be all bumped, but hey, there's jump drives. What do I care if it's bumped?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. When people start going on about it's a grounded, unrealistic, non-magic thing, I go, jump drives?
Jump drives? Yeah. Anti-gravity? Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to have a little bit of Handwavium in there somewhere.
There, in my opinion, there's certain things that players come expecting from sci-fi, and artificial gravity is one of them. Faster than light traveler is one of them.
Has to be there. Yeah.
Shields on your ship, people expect shields. So they say they want shields. Give them some shields. The other ship has shields too. It's not a cheat if they both have it. But it adds to the ambiance and the expectations that the players have in a world of sci-fi. How about you, Tim? What have you found AI to be super helpful with anything, even though you're kind of struggling?
I found one other pain point, actually. I just remembered one other pain point, and that's trying to sketch new alien species, which you've got a fairly good idea about, and you come up with I've tried desperately to come up with a whole set of prompts, and I've never been able to produce a decent alien. The only person who's come up with it has been a professional artist who actually took what I said and said, what, something like that, and it's sort of, yeah, that's it. Why can't the AI do that? But so that's the other pain point. But what I found that's actually really useful so far is coming up with character sketches. I play a character, outlines and pictures, which have instantly allowed people to buy in, and they say, "Oh yeah, I like that one." Then you can try another one and say, "What about this one? Oh yeah, that's even better. Oh, can we do something else from the previous one in it as well?" And that. Sorry, I'm doing a Todd here with my fingers. Sorry, I'll get it out of the way, Todd. Sorry. And I found that really useful because I found oddly, it always used to be people trying to make sketches. I can't draw anymore. It doesn't look like it, but I've got a disability, so I can't. So drawing's a real problem now. But being able to actually produce the sketches now is really useful to actually show the characters or produce for the players. This is what your character looks like, and they can go away and do it, and play around with it. They'll take the prompt and do what they want. But that's been really useful.
Yeah, that's something I like as well. What I made portraits for all of the characters in one of my games that we've been playing for a while, and AI had just come out, and I was like, this will be a fun exercise. And one of the things I like is visualizing scenes from our adventures. And so one of the characters, he escaped from or was ejected from a luxury ship for cheating in the casino, and so he's been here like a castaway. He has his wrecked escape pod, and so he's got a big beard, and he's thin, and he just has his tattered emergency space suit and stuff, and and they encountered him on this jungle planet, and so I made this portrait of the character in his emergency spacesuit with the grizzled beard and everything, and man, it looked just like him, and the player was just amazed, and it made me feel happy to that everybody could see what that we all agreed that that's what that guy looked like.
Yeah.
And what about you, Andrew? Have you had any success stories with AI? Or any blenders? Okay. Alrighty, let's see if I had anything else. Okay, so is there anything that because I'm just making this group up as I go along. This is my first school group. Is there anything that you guys have found extra useful? Todd said prompt packs were helpful. Anything else? What do you guys think of like the challenges, or is there anything you'd want more or less of? Now's a good time to talk about that.
Honestly, right now, I'm liking what I see. It's not all focused in one direction. It covers a little bit here, a little bit there, some interaction with the community that allows us to be creative and engaged. So I think you're really on the right path.
All right, thanks.
I don't know about anybody else, but I've actually found this chat really useful already.
Oh, good.
Hearing what you guys have done, and I'm sorry, Tommy and Andrew, you've got mic problems, but that sort of input, it always sparks off ideas, and I always find really solid and interesting. So thanks already. So,
oh, cool. All right. Anybody else like the challenges? Okay, yeah. I'll keep them coming. I'm not sure how frequently they will be, but I have the next one's going to be New Year, New You. And it's going to be try to put your face on a character in a situation you wouldn't normally be in. So as an example, you've probably seen me in the Madhouse on the About page. And I have some other images I'll post as examples. But one thing I thought was kind of cool was, I don't know if you're familiar, I'm not a big fan of like watching other people like play sports or play D&D or anything. But those guys at Critical Role, they have a really cool intro where they are their characters. And I thought, oh, that might be cool to do something like that. So that's what the next challenge is going to be. New Year, New You. And see if you can use any of the, yeah, I haven't really watched them, but I'm aware of who they are and why they're popular. And there's no denying they're popular. They have a cartoon series and a game that they made, and a successful like first D&D actual play legacy. I mean, they accomplished a lot, even though it's not my cup of tea, as they say. Let's see. All right. Well, I think we've probably come to the end of our little discussion, and an hour and almost a half was more than I hoped for. So I'm glad you guys showed up, and thank you very much for supporting this project. And my virtual door was always virtually open. So if you have any suggestions or comments or complaints, please express them, and I'll do my best to address them. And again, I'd like to welcome you all to the group, and thank you all so much for your positive contributions. And I hope it's the beginning of a successful and interesting group, and that we can all learn stuff together to help us improve our games.
Frank,
so thank you.
Good to meet you guys.
Trouble remembering that we're supposed to be helping you build this thing and not just being users, right? So I mean, here Frank's going to do this. Oh yeah, Frank's trying to make. Yeah, I should really look at what he's asking to see if. Yeah, I should probably be helping. So sorry.
I might have a solution for what you're doing. So, or I might be able to find it. So yeah, post it up there if you think of it. Again, thanks everybody for joining this group and being the founder. So it means a lot to me. Thanks a lot. Thanks Tommy and Andrew and everybody. Thanks Todd. Thanks Tim.
Good
Thanks
group,
Rob.
Frank.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.